Her scream cracked through the marble halls, wild and feral. Yet the waitress didn't flinch. Instead, she slid a napkin forward, whispering, "Show me the hurt," and the mansion's chaos fell strangely, impossibly silent. The scream still echoed in the waitress's ears long after the marble hallway fell quiet. Maya Santos clutched the stainless steel tray against her chest as she stood just outside the private café room of the Valtoria estate. She had been working here for only 6 days, but she already knew one thing. Nothing in this mansion stayed calm for long. Valtoria Estate Café was technically just a small breakfast lounge inside the billionaire's sprawling home, a place where staff prepared whatever the family wanted before the sun fully rose. But everyone in the estate whispered about it with a strange mix of dread and respect, because this was her territory. The child no one could handle, the daughter who made security guards tremble, teachers resign, and experienced nannies flee halfway through their shift. Ariella Valtoria, 8 years old, brilliant, sharp-tongued, untamable. A girl whose tantrums were legendary. A girl who, rumor said, hadn't laughed, not once, in almost 3 years. Maya drew in a breath and adjusted her apron. She had dealt with rowdy customers before, but nothing like this. Noise from the cafe carried down the corridors behind her, whispers of other staff hiding, breathing shallowly, terrified of the next outburst. "You're new," one maid had warned Maya that morning. "If you value your sanity, don't make eye contact with her." But here Maya was, breakfast tray in hand, waiting for the courage to push open the door. She breathed out slowly. Just breakfast, she told herself. Just a child. But deep inside, she felt something else too, something she almost felt guilty acknowledging. A readiness, an instinct, a strange, unshakable calm. It was the same feeling she used to get before stepping into the shelter she volunteered at, before speaking to scared, hurting children who didn't know how to voice their pain. That was why she hadn't run away at the first scream. It was why she squared her shoulders now, pressed her hand to the polished brass handle, and gently pushed the door open. A child in ruins. A storm lived in the center of the room. Papers littered the floor, notes from tutors torn to shreds. A velvet chair lay toppled, a half-finished bowl of berries splattered across the pristine white rug like an abstract painting. But the eye of the storm, the little girl sat hunched at the table, fists balled, eyes burning. If people feared Ariella for her rage, Maya saw something else first. A child who looked tired. Too tired for 8 years old. Too tired for all this wealth. Maya walked to the table, her steps steady, even as the girl's glare sharpened. "I said I don't want breakfast," Ariella snapped, kicking at a fallen pencil with her heel. "I said it 100 times. Are you deaf?" Maya set the tray down softly. "Probably," she said calmly. "My brothers used to shout a lot. Might have damaged me." Ariella's eyes widened, caught off guard by humor instead of fear. For the first time, Maya saw a crack in the little girl's armor. She removed the silver lid from the plate, revealing a neatly arranged assortment of eggs, toast, and strawberries. "I don't want that," Ariella muttered. "It's ugly." Maya raised a brow. "Good thing you're not eating the presentation then, just the food." Ariella blinked. Adults usually either panicked or lectured her. No one ever answered her like she was normal. "It's wrong," the girl insisted, voice rising again.
Everything's wrong! She shoved the plate away. Her breathing quickened, her face pinched, anger and something deeper mixing dangerously. A tantrum was seconds away. Staff in the hallway tensed. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. But Maya simply reached into her apron pocket, pulled out a clean napkin, and slid it gently across the table. "Draw it," she said. "Whatever feels wrong." Ariella froze. "What?" "Draw what's hurting you." The child stared at the napkin as if it was something impossible, something she didn't know she was allowed to do. Maya set a pencil next to it. Still no yelling, no flinching, no bribes, no threats, just space. For a moment, Ariella didn't move. Then slowly, hesitantly, she grabbed the pencil. Her shoulders lowered, her breathing steadied, and the room, once full of chaos, softened into silence. "She's drawing," Maya thought, watching the tiny hand tremble with the first lines. "She's not screaming." Behind the door, staff exchanged stunned whispers. No one had ever gotten Ariella to stop a meltdown once it started. No one, except, apparently, the new waitress. The mansion watches. The silence felt like a fragile miracle. Maya didn't move. She didn't praise the child. She didn't pressure her. She simply wiped berry stains from the rug, sweeping gently so the sound wouldn't startle her. Minutes passed. Ariella kept drawing, fiercely, almost desperately, like she was pouring out everything the world didn't know she carried. When she finally paused, her eyes lifted, filled with something Maya hadn't expected. Fear. "Don't tell my dad," she whispered. Maya straightened. "Tell him what?" "That I get like this." The words were small, cracked, barely held together. Aha! There it was. Not a monster, not a tyrant, just a child terrified of disappointing the one person she wished would understand. "I won't tell you anything you don't want me to," Maya said softly. Ariella swallowed hard. "People always tell him." "Well, I'm not people," Maya said, picking up a strawberry and placing it on the plate. Ariella's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile, but gone before it fully formed. Still, it was more than anyone had seen in years. If you were Maya, standing in that silent storm, would you have comforted the child or walked away like everyone else? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious what you would do. Footsteps down the hall. The quiet didn't last long. Heavy, purposeful footsteps echoed from the corridor, measured and unmistakable. The billionaire was home. Damien Valtoria returned almost every evening just after 6, stepping out of his world of boardrooms and power into a household that often felt like a war zone. But today, his footsteps slowed. Because today the mansion was not shaking with screams. It was still. Maya felt Ariella tense. "You don't have to hide what you drew," Maya murmured. Ariella looked down at the napkin, a swirl of jagged lines and dark smudges that looked like a storm swallowing a tiny stick figure. She covered it quickly with her palm. The door opened. Damien Valtoria stood framed in the light from the hallway, sharp suit, tired eyes, shoulders that seemed heavier than yesterday. But when he saw the room, intact, calm, untouched by chaos, he almost spoke from disbelief alone. Then his eyes landed on his daughter, drawing, quiet, breathing softly instead of gasping through sobs, For the first time in years. He swallowed. His voice came out hushed. "Tell me." And then Damien stared at her, stunned, searching, almost desperate. Because everyone had failed. Teachers, nannies, therapists, specialists paid more per hour than most people made in a week. Everyone. Except this quiet waitress who wasn't even supposed to be here today. Ariella looked up, eyes flicking between them. For a split second, the little girl's face softened, like she knew, deep down, someone had finally understood her. Damien swallowed. His voice came out hushed. "Thank you." Maya only nodded, but
Sunlight spilled across the estate grounds the next morning, glinting off polished stone pathways and dew-touched hedges. The Valtoria mansion, usually echoing with tension, felt strangely lighter, as if the walls themselves were waiting for something to happen. Maya tightened her ponytail as she stepped into the small estate café, expecting the usual disaster scene. But instead, Ariella was already sitting at the table, not screaming, not kicking, not shredding papers, just sitting. Her feet swung beneath the chair, brushing softly against the marble floor. Her small fingers tapped anxiously, but her eyes, those guarded, fiery eyes, lifted the second Maya entered the room. "You're late," Ariella said, though Maya was perfectly on time. "I'm human. Humans blink, trip, and sometimes walk slow." Ariella tried not to smile back. It was almost adorable how hard she resisted the upward tug of her cheeks. "I drew more," the girl muttered, sliding a folded breakfast napkin across the table. Maya unfolded it carefully. Another storm. Swirls, shadows, jagged lines. But this time, the little stick figure wasn't swallowed whole. Instead, it stood beneath the storm with an umbrella. An umbrella drawn in faint yellow pencil. Maya's chest warmed. "I like this," she said. "Did the umbrella help?" Ariella shrugged. "Maybe. You want breakfast? Only if you don't put the strawberries in the wrong place again." Maya bit back a laugh. "I'll try to respect the sacred order of your plate." Ariella pressed her lips together, fighting another smile. Progress. Slow, but real. And the mansion, for the first time in a long time, felt like a place where hope wasn't ridiculous. By mid-morning, whispers drifted like smoke through the estate hallways. Maya did it again. The girl didn't throw anything? Did she bribe her? Hypnotize her? Magic? Definitely magic. Even the head of household, a man who once politely asked a world-famous violinist to stop tuning his instrument so loudly, stood outside the café door listening. Inside, Ariella was explaining the exact, unforgivable offense committed by a cartoon character on her favorite show. And then he said he didn't care if she left, but he did care. He lied. Why do adults lie? Ariella burst out, waving her hands. Maybe because they want to look braver than they really are. Maya sat on the edge of the counter. Ariella paused, looked down. I don't like brave lies. She whispered. I don't either, Maya said quietly. The staff exchanged startled looks, and Child, who once refused to be in the same room as anyone, was now talking, sharing, opening. All because of a waitress who didn't seem the least bit intimidated by her.
She wasn't sure if she could fix a child's pain. She wasn't sure if she could uproot the ghosts in this house. But one thing she did know. No one, especially a child, should feel alone in their storm. All right, Maya said softly. I'll stay. Damien closed his eyes for a moment, releasing a breath he'd been holding for months. When he opened them, something new flickered behind his gaze. Something warm, something relieved, something he didn't dare name yet. The agreement was simple. Maya would maintain her waitress duties, but she would also spend afternoons with Ariella, reading, drawing, helping her understand her feelings instead of drowning in them. "She won't listen?" Damien warned as they walked together. "She's stubborn." Maya shrugged. "So am I." He almost smiled. The first afternoon as her unofficial companion began with the girl crossing her arms and announcing, "I'm only listening if you don't talk too much." Maya nodded. "Noted. Excessive words are illegal." Ariella cracked a smirk. Then, as if remembering she wasn't supposed to be easy, she grabbed a pillow and threw it across the room. It hit Maya square in the shoulder. Maya stared at the pillow, then at the girl. Then she calmly picked it up and tossed it back, lightly, gently, almost teasingly. Ariella gasped. "What was that?" "A pillow," Maya said. "Dangerous weapon, prohibited on weekends." The girl fought laughter, actual, bubbling laughter that rose like a sound she hadn't used in years. Maya froze. Damien, watching unseen from the hallway, pressed a hand over his mouth. His daughter laughed, for the first time since her mother died. His eyes stung. He turned away before anyone could see him break. If you were Damien, watching the first laugh your child has made in years, would you trust the stranger who made it happen, or fear losing control? Tell me in the comments. Your answer reveals a lot. By evening, Ariella had taught Maya the exact rules of her imaginary kingdom, declared herself supreme ruler of all things breakfast, and demanded Maya sit beside her as she wrote a very important decree. But as dusk fell, the child's energy faded. Her little shoulders slumped, her fingers curled inward, her face went pale and quiet. Maya placed a gentle hand on her back. "Hey, what's wrong?" Ariella didn't look up. "Sometimes," she whispered, "it gets loud in here." She tapped her temple. "And I don't know how to stop it." Maya kneeled beside her. "No one knows how to stop the noise, but we can learn how to make it quieter." Ariella hesitated. "Will you teach me?" Maya felt her heart tighten. "Yes," she said, "every day if you want." Ariella nodded, not smiling, but trusting. And trust, Maya realized, was bigger than any smile. After tucking Ariella into bed, something Maya did only because the girl insisted, Damien walked Maya to the estate café. "Thank you," he said again, voice thick. "You don't need to thank me," Maya replied. But he shook his head. "You don't understand," he whispered. "For years, I've felt like I'm losing her, like I'm not enough." Maya felt that confession like a weight. "You love her," she said gently. "That's enough." He looked at her, a long, searching look that held gratitude, admiration, and something he tried to hide. "You're changing her world, and I don't know how to repay that." Maya swallowed, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. "You don't have to repay anything," she said softly. "Just be her dad." Damien nodded slowly, eyes warm, vulnerable, and full of something that Maya's chest tightened, something she didn't dare name either.
In the days that followed, the Valtoria mansion transformed in ways no expert had managed in years. The tantrums didn't vanish, but they softened. The outbursts didn't stop, but they shortened. The echoes of grief didn't disappear, but they finally had somewhere to land. Every morning, Maya entered the estate café to find Ariella already waiting with a notebook full of new sketches. Storms, umbrellas, suns, shadows, and sometimes figures she didn't explain. Other staff members tiptoed around the girl in awe. "She asked me for the time today," the gardener whispered one afternoon. And she didn't call me a useless sack of potatoes. She said thank you for the flowers I brought inside, the maid added, hand pressed to her heart as if she still couldn't believe it. Words that once felt impossible now bloomed like secret gifts. But Maya knew something deeper was happening beneath the surface. Ariella wasn't just behaving better. She was beginning to trust again. And trust was delicate, fragile like a newborn flame. It needed protection. It needed patience. It needed truth. One rainy afternoon, the sky bruised with dark clouds, Maya found Ariella curled on the window seat with her knees hugged to her chest. No tantrum, no yelling, just withdrawal. Maya sat beside her. "Stormy day, huh?" Ariella didn't answer. Her eyes were glued to the rain streaking down the glass, her small fingers twisting her shirt sleeve until the fabric stretched. Maya didn't push. Silence, she had learned, was another language, sometimes louder than words. After several minutes, Ariella whispered without looking up, "When it rains, it feels like she's coming back." Maya's breath halted. "Your mom?" she asked gently. Ariella nodded. "She used to sit here, right here, and she'd say rain made the world honest again." Her voice cracked. "But she never comes back. It's just rain." She pressed her forehead to her knees, and at all once the real reason behind the tantrums, the storms, the impossible behavior became clear. Loss. Grief too large for a child to carry. Love that disappeared too suddenly to understand. Maya placed a light hand on Ariella's back. "You miss her." Ariella's shoulders quivered, but she nodded. She was the only one who didn't think I was too much. Maya swallowed a lump in her throat. "You're not too much," she whispered. "You're a lot, but a lot can be beautiful." Ariella looked up, eyes shining. "Then why does everyone leave?" Maya inhaled softly. "Maybe they left because they weren't strong enough, not because you weren't worth staying for." Ariella blinked, slowly, as if letting that idea settle in a place she'd long kept locked. Then she whispered, "Will you leave?" Maya didn't lie. She didn't make promises she couldn't keep. But she did offer truth, the thing the little girl needed most. "I'm here now, and I'm not afraid of your storms." Ariella's chin trembled, and for the first time she leaned against Maya's shoulder, not hesitantly, not angrily, but with the fragile trust of a child learning safety again. Maya wrapped an arm around her. The rain kept falling, but inside the mansion, a different kind of healing began. Damien stood in the doorway, unseen. He had come to check on his daughter, expecting to find chaos or shouting. Instead, he found the two most important figures in his world sitting together in a quiet, heartbreaking tenderness. His breath caught at the sight. Ariella leaning on someone who wasn't him, was a reality he wanted desperately to feel grateful for, but it also carved into him like a blade. Not because he was jealous, but because he feared what it revealed. His daughter trusted Maya more quickly than she trusted her own father. And it wasn't because he didn't love her. He loved her fiercely, hopelessly. But grief had turned him into a man who was always working, always rushing to fire-manage things. A man who watched his daughter suffer while desperately trying to fix things with money, tutors, programs, specialists. None of it had been what she needed. He swallowed hard. When Ariella finally fell asleep curled against Maya, Damien stepped forward. Was she talking about her mother? His voice was barely a whisper. Maya nodded. She misses her. Damien's face tightened, sorrow flickering in his eyes. She was very close to her mother. He murmured, "After the accident, everything changed." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture heavy with regret. "And I wasn't there for her the way she needed. I didn't know how to be." Maya looked at him softly. "You're doing your best." "My best hasn't been enough," he said quietly. His voice cracked, a thin, raw sound. Maya whispered, "She's opening up again. That means she still wants connection. She still wants you." Damien looked toward his daughter. Small, exhausted, resting peacefully for the first time in weeks. A father's heart broke and mended in the same breath. Later that evening, with Ariella tucked into bed, Damien walked Maya to the kitchen like he always did. But tonight felt different. The air between them bordered on fragile, thin, warm, full of unspoken things. Damien cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology." Maya blinked. "For what?" "For letting you walk into all this, without telling you what you were really up against." She smiled gently. "I figured it out." He shook his head. "No, you didn't. Everyone else did." Maya lifted her chin. "Sometimes the people who stay aren't the strongest, Mr. Valtoria. They're just the ones who remember what they needed when they were younger." Damien stilled. There was something in her tone, something that felt like a quiet confession wrapped in softness. "What did you need?" he asked. Maya hesitated. Then, almost too quietly to hear, she replied, "Someone to stay." Damien took a slow breath. In that moment, he saw her, not just the calm waitress, not just the miracle worker with his daughter. He saw the young woman who carried her own storms, her own loneliness, her own hunger for safety that matched Ariella's more than either of them realized. His voice softened. "Maya, whatever your past was, I'm glad it brought you here." She looked away, cheeks warming. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "Maybe not, but I'd like to." Maya's heart thudded. She wasn't sure she trusted the feeling rising between them. Gentle, dangerous, magnetic. But before she could answer, Ariella's small voice floated from down the hall. "Maya, don't go home yet." Damien cuckolded under his breath. "She really won't let you leave." Maya smiled. "It's okay. I don't mind." Damien looked at her like that meant more than she realized. Later, after reading a story to the little girl, Maya noticed a new drawing on Ariella's desk. A small figure with long hair, another taller figure in a suit, a child standing between them. The three holding hands. A family. Maya's breath caught. Ariella was sleeping, unaware of the ache her drawing had stirred, unaware of how deeply it threatened to change everything. Behind her, Damien appeared at the door. When he saw the drawing, he froze. His eyes flicked to Maya, softening, warming, wondering. "Looks like she's imagining something she wants," Maya whispered. Damien's voice was low. "And what about you? What do you want?" Maya swallowed hard. The question lingered in the air, trembling with meaning. But she wasn't ready to answer it yet. Not yet.
The next morning, the billionaire returned home early, exhausted, curious, and unable to stop thinking about the waitress who somehow succeeded where trained professionals failed. He walked through the quiet halls of the estate, surprised that for once the house wasn't filled with yelling, breaking objects, or staff rushing around in panic. He found his daughter on the balcony, knees tucked to her chest, sketchbook open. Sophia was drawing, peacefully. And right beside her sat the waitress, Lila, kneeling on the floor with a tray of paints, crayons, and sheets of paper scattered like soft-colored petals. The billionaire froze. His daughter was smiling. Not a forced one, not the smirk she used to hide her hurt. A real, light, childlike smile. He stepped closer, but Sophia noticed him and instantly tensed, snapping the sketchbook shut. The moment was fragile, like thin glass that could break with one wrong word. Lila glanced back and nodded subtly, silently asking him not to push. Then she whispered to the girl, "Remember, you get to choose who sees your drawings. You're the one in control." Those words, "You're in control," dissolved the panic in Sophia's eyes. Slowly, hesitantly, she opened the sketchbook again. And for the first time in years, she held it out toward her father. The billionaire knelt, heart pounding. Inside were drawings, not angry scribbles, not destructive colors, but memories. Some dark, some lonely, but all honest. A picture of her mother leaving, another of the empty dining table where she ate alone, another of her father's office door, always closed. The billionaire blinked rapidly, his throat tightening. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I thought giving you everything meant I was being a good father." Sophia didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence was louder than any scream she'd ever thrown. Lila placed a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder and said softly, she didn't need everything. She just needed someone to see her. For the first time, the billionaire truly saw his daughter. And for the first time, he realized it wasn't the child who was impossible. It was the pain she carried alone. He looked at Lila, eyes filled with gratitude and guilt. He asked, "How did you know?" Lila smiled sadly. Kids don't misbehave for fun. They do it because something inside them is louder than they are. Sophia leaned her head onto Lila's arm, willingly. Something she'd never done with anyone. Walls that had taken years to build, cracked in a single morning, and the billionaire finally understood. This waitress wasn't just helping his daughter. She was saving her.
The sun was setting when the estate finally felt alive again. Not from chaos, but from something the billionaire had almost forgotten existed in his home: warmth. Lila was in the kitchen preparing a simple dinner. Nothing extravagant, just warm soup, soft bread, and a little dessert she jokingly called peace pie. Sophia sat on the counter swinging her legs, watching every move with curious eyes. She wasn't barking orders, throwing insults, or demanding perfection. She was helping, passing spoons, stirring, asking questions softly. The billionaire watched from the doorway, stunned. This wasn't the same child who once threw plates at private tutors. This was a little girl who finally felt safe enough to be gentle. At the dinner table, the billionaire tried something he hadn't done in years. He sat beside his daughter instead of at the far end. He kept his phone face down. He listened. Sophia told him about her drawings, her fears, her nightmares, her loneliness. Not all at once, but piece by fragile piece. And each time she hesitated, Lila would nod, silently giving her courage. The billionaire's heart broke and grew, all in the same moment. After dinner, as Sophia headed upstairs with her sketchbook, she paused on the staircase and whispered, "Papa, will you read with me tonight?" He froze. That simple question hit him harder than any boardroom crisis ever could. "Yes," he whispered,
"I'd love to." The girl nodded shyly and disappeared up the stairs. The house fell quiet again, but this time it wasn't the heavy silence of loneliness. It was peace. The billionaire turned to Lila. "I don't know how to thank you. Everyone else failed. Therapists, teachers, specialists, they all gave up." Lila shook her head. "They didn't fail. They just couldn't hear what she wasn't saying." He sighed. "I spent millions trying to fix her when all she needed was one person who cared." Lila hesitated, then said something he never expected. "She didn't need me, sir. She needed you. I just opened the door." Those words hit him with the force of truth. For the first time in years, he was no longer the billionaire who ran empires. He was just a father, desperate to do better. Later that night, he peeked into his daughter's room. Sophia slept peacefully, her hand resting beside the book they read together. No tears, no anger, no fear. Lila was right. His daughter didn't need perfection. She needed presence. He turned off the light, closing the door gently. Downstairs, he found Lila wiping tables, even though her shift ended hours ago. "Stay," he said softly, not as a command, but as a request from a grateful father. Not as staff, but as someone who saved my family from falling apart. Lila looked up, startled, but before she could answer, Sophia's voice drifted faintly from upstairs. "Good night, Lila." A genuine, sleepy, love-filled good night. Lila smiled, warm, full, real. And in that moment it became clear. This wasn't just the end of a long day. It was the beginning of a new family, built not on money, but on understanding, patience, and the extraordinary kindness of a woman who saw what no one else did.
Morning sunlight spilled softly through the estate windows, turning the marble floors golden. For the first time in a very, very long while, the mansion didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a home. Sophia woke up early, not with screams, not with demands, not with a tantrum echoing through the halls. She arrived downstairs wearing mismatched socks and clutching her sketchbook. Lila, already wiping tables for the cafe's early rush, smiled. "Good morning, sunshine." Sophia didn't glare, didn't hide, didn't bark back. She simply walked up, opened her sketchbook, and said, "I drew what hurt me, and then I drew what made it better." Lila knelt beside her, heart pounding. The first page was filled with jagged shapes, dark colors, little storm cloud scribbles, fear, anger, silence. But the next page showed a napkin, and beside it, a tiny figure holding a pencil. "I wasn't angry at people," Sophia whispered. "I was angry that no one listened." Then she looked up at Lila. "But you listened." Lila swallowed the lump in her throat. Before she could respond, the billionaire walked in. Tie undone, sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd run downstairs after noticing his daughter was gone from her room. He paused when he saw them. Sophia speaking softly, Lila kneeling gently, a scene so fragile it almost felt holy. Lila stepped back, letting father and daughter connect. Sophia held up her drawing. "Papa, I want you to see too." The billionaire took the sketchbook with trembling hands, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel helpless. He didn't feel shut out of her world. His daughter was letting him in. Later that afternoon, Lila finished her café shift. She tied her apron, ready to leave quietly, not wanting to overstay her place. But as she walked toward the exit, two voices stopped her. "Lila!" It was the billionaire and his daughter,
standing together. There was something different about them now, not a pair divided by fear and misunderstanding, but a father and child finally learning each other's hearts. The billionaire cleared his throat. "My daughter has made a request," he said almost shyly. "A very strong one." Sophia stepped forward. "I want you to stay. Not just today, not just as a waitress. I want you to be my friend." Lila's breath caught. Sophia, I don't want to overstep." "You didn't overstep," the billionaire said quietly. "You stepped in where everyone else stepped out." He took a breath, nervous perhaps for the first time in years. "Would you consider becoming her companion? Someone who works with her, spends time with her, helps her communicate? You changed something in this house, something money has never been able to buy." Lila blinked, overwhelmed. A job? No. A purpose. And not just any purpose, one that mattered. "Let me think about it," she whispered. Sophia grabbed her hand. "Think fast," she said, already smiling. "If you were in Lila's shoes, offered a place in a world so different from your own, would you accept or would you walk away? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you'd choose." Before giving an answer, Lila asked for one thing: to spend time with Sophia alone, to see if this could really work. The billionaire agreed immediately. So Lila took Sophia outside to the garden, a place the little girl avoided since her mother passed. Too many memories, too much silence. But not today. Today, Sophia knelt beside Lila and planted a tiny seed in the soil. "What kind of plant is it?" she asked. Lila shrugged playfully. "No idea, but whatever grows, we'll take care of it together." Sophia looked up. Together? Always. And in that tiny moment, hands in the dirt, sun warming their faces, a bond rooted itself deeper than either of them realized. A bond that would transform all three of their lives.
Night settled over the estate in soft velvet layers. The kind of night that made everything feel slower, quieter, closer. Lila stood on the balcony outside her tiny café room, a simple space overlooking a garden that had seen grief and now, finally, hope. The small seed she and Sophia planted earlier that day remained tucked under the earth, invisible yet full of promise. Just like this new chapter of their lives. She held the billionaire's offer in her heart like a fragile note, kept replaying the way Sophia smiled at her, the way the billionaire spoke, not with authority, but with gratitude. Yet she wondered, was she really the one who could do this? Could a simple waitress step into a world like this without losing herself? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. She opened the door to find the billionaire standing there, not in a suit, not looking polished or impenetrable, but human, tired, hopeful. "May I?" he asked. She nodded, stepping aside. He stepped into the small room. Glancing around, there were no luxuries, just a neatly made bed, an old lamp, a tiny window. "This is humble," he said gently. Lila smiled. "I've never needed much." He looked at her, really looked at her. "That's what makes you different. Everyone comes into our lives wanting something, but you came wanting to understand." Her breath caught because no one had ever said something like that to her.
He hesitated, then said the words that had been pressing against his heart. "My daughter? She doesn't smile at people. She doesn't trust easily. She doesn't open up. But with you, she breathes differently." Lila looked down, overwhelmed. "I didn't fix her. She wasn't broken. She just needed a place to put her feelings and someone who wouldn't be scared of them." The billionaire stepped closer, not too close, but enough that she felt the sincerity radiating off him. "I want you to stay," he whispered, "not because of what you can do, but because of who you are." And then he said something he'd never once told an employee in his entire empire. "You matter here." Lila's throat tightened, but before she could respond, the door creaked open. Sophia peeked in, hair messy, clutching her blanket, and a stuffed rabbit missing an ear. "Lila?" She rubbed her eyes. "He had a nightmare," she sniffed, "the kind where the house feels too big." Lila immediately knelt. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're not alone tonight." Sophia looked at her father. "Can she stay with us just until I sleep?" The billionaire nodded, eyes soft. And so the three of them sat on the rug in Sophia's room. Sophia in the middle, holding her father's hand in one hand and Lila's in the other. They talked softly until Sophia's eyelids grew heavy. They stayed until the nightmares faded. They didn't move until her breathing turned peaceful and steady. When she finally drifted off, the billionaire and Lila tiptoed into the hallway. The house was completely silent. But it was a new silence, one filled with connection instead of emptiness. "That's why I want you here," he whispered again. "You make her world feel safe." Lila swallowed hard. "I'll stay, but not as someone replacing her mother, not as someone pretending to belong in a world I don't understand." He shook his head. "As yourself. Nothing more, nothing less." Her voice softened. "Then yes, I'll stay." The billionaire closed his eyes for a moment, relief washing across his face. When he opened them, he met her gaze with something warm, something unguarded, something that wasn't just gratitude. A quiet spark. Not rushed, not forbidden, not spoken aloud. Just there, in the space between two people who had both been lonely for too long. If you were the billionaire, seeing your daughter heal because of one woman, would you try to keep your feelings hidden or let them grow? Tell me your honest thoughts. I'd love to hear.
Morning came gently. Soft light streamed across the estate, warming the hallways that once echoed with cold silence. But today, instead of the usual tension, there was laughter. Small, bright, bubbling laughter coming from the garden. Lila was kneeling beside the little patch of soil where she and Sophia had planted their seed. Sophia sat cross-legged beside her, hair in a messy braid, humming softly as she drew little smiley faces in the dirt. The billionaire watched from the doorway, quiet, unseen, and absolutely mesmerized. His daughter, the same child who once threw vases and locked herself in rooms, was now giggling because Lila accidentally smudged dirt across her own cheek. It was a sight he had prayed for, and one he never thought he'd see. He stepped closer. "What's happening out here?" he teased. Sophia turned with the biggest grin he had ever seen. "We planted magic," she declared. Lila laughed. "Just seeds, sweetheart." Sophia shook her head. "Magic seeds, because I'm happy now." That sentence hit him harder than any truth he had ever heard. He sat beside them in the grass, tugging Sophia into his side. "Magic, huh?" he said softly. "I think you're right." Lila looked at them, father and daughter, and felt warmth swell in her chest.
This was what healing looked like. Not dramatic, not loud, just real. After breakfast, the billionaire asked Leela to walk with him. They strolled along the stone path, leading toward the reflecting pool, the estate peaceful around them. "You've changed this place," he said quietly. "My daughter, she sleeps through the night now. She draws, she talks, she laughs." They paused. "And he hesitated. "I'm learning to be her father again." Leela smiled gently. "You always were. You just forgot how much she needed you." He looked at her then, truly looked at her, with eyes no longer guarded by power, wealth, or distance. "Leela," he said softly, "you didn't just help her. You helped me too." She exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. "I didn't do it alone," she whispered. "You let her in, and now she's letting you in too." He nodded, eyes warming. "I want you to stay permanently. Not a staff, never that. Not as an employee or a caretaker." Leela blinked, breath catching. "Then, as what?" He took a small step closer. "As someone who belongs here," he said simply. "With us." Her heart skipped. Us. Not the billionaire and his daughter. Not the employer and employee. Not separate worlds. Us. A family. A beginning. Before she could speak, Sophia burst out of the house, waving something in her hands. "Look!" she shouted. She held up a drawing. 3 figures holding hands. A little girl in the middle, a tall man on one side, a woman with a kind smile on the other. Above their heads, in Sophia's handwriting, "My family." Leela pressed her hand to her mouth. The billionaire's eyes shone. Sophia ran up to them breathless. "Papa, this is Leela. She stays now, forever, right?" Leela knelt slowly. "I can stay," she whispered, voice trembling. "If you both want me to." Sophia threw her arms around her. The billionaire spoke softly. "We want you, more than you know." When Leela stood, he reached for her hand. Not forcefully, not desperately, just honestly. She let him take it. And in that moment, with the breeze brushing their skin, with Sophia dancing around them, with the sunlight warming their faces, something finally clicked into place. 3 people, 3 broken hearts, once living in 3 separate worlds, now standing together, growing together, healing together. A father rediscovering love, a daughter rediscovering trust, a waitress discovering her worth, a family born not from blood or wealth or perfection, but from patience, empathy, courage, and a miracle disguised as a napkin. If you've ever met someone who changed your life in a quiet, unexpected way, what did they teach you? Share in the comments. Your story might help someone heal today.